Hey guys, how we doing? Back with another video from Any News, another Overlord video, and it's his final video on Aura and Mare. What are their true purposes, and basically it's Aura and Mare explained. Not like how strong they are, what they can do, it's why they're there.
So, we've covered Aura and Mare separately, gone through their skills, abilities, strengths, and weaknesses, but what does all that mean in the grand scheme of things?
Right, here we go, yeah, cool.
How do they stack up against everyone else in Nazarick, and how would they perform in combat? I mean, there must be a reason why they were both chosen to guard the same floor together. So, let's actually answer the question of how strong are Aura and Mare, and finally wrap up this joint character profile of the Dark Elf twins. Based on their stat pools, Mare is a good all-rounder, and Aura is a support specialist. But by themselves, neither of them would be particularly powerful enough to take on a 1v1 specialist like Sheltier.
Yeah.
They just don't have the sustained DPS output over time of someone like Cocytus or Sibas. And neither of them could execute a powerful burst attack from a build like those belonging to Overtalane Odo, Pararanchino, or Nishikion Rai. So, what would be their role in combat? Fundamentally, the two of them specialize in large group battles. The majority of Mare's spells have a massive area of effect, and are very good at delaying, damaging, or outright destroying enemy armies, while Aura has a large army herself of very powerful magical creatures. In a traditional head-to-head battle, Aura might command her beasts from the center, using her breath to buff them all. Meanwhile, Mare would sling his massive spells from the rear, calling down lightning storms and tornadoes to sow chaos in the enemy formation.
So cool.
But it would seem that their capabilities are much better used in guerrilla tactics. In fact, they seem to be custom fit for the floor that they were tasked with guarding. If you remember, we talked a little bit about the major features of the 6th floor of Nazarick, including the fact that it was covered mostly by forest, and we mentioned that Aura and Mare were its floor guardians. By now, it should be a lot more clear as to how and why they were best suited to guard this dense forest. Any large enemy moving through the floor would need to be able to navigate at least portions of the dense forest that blanketed the terrain, slowing down their progress if any of them weren't proficiently skilled. There could even be forest-related traps like poisonous flowers or fungi. Many of Aura's creatures could also probably utilize this forest to camouflage themselves and launch ambushes, whittling down small groups of enemies before regrouping and preparing for another ambush. And they're likely much more mobile than any intruders that would be on the floor, since we know for a fact that some of them can ignore any debilitating effects of the terrain. Aura herself could use her Sky Eye skill to monitor the area even through the dense forest. Her breath skill, primary weapon, ranged attacks, and stealth proficiency would synergize well with her powers of observation, allowing her to strike at enemies even through the concealment and cover provided by the terrain. Meanwhile, Mare could enchant or animate the various trees or plants to attack foes, possibly even teleporting from tree to tree while casting spells. His terrain manipulation could confuse the enemy, as they wouldn't necessarily be able to see the changes in the topology of the environment, given all the trees that block their field of view. And he would also be able to support Aura's beasts with his own assortment of buffs and even healing spells. But that's not to say that these tactics couldn't be employed in other kinds of terrain. It's just that they'd be highly effective on the 6th floor. Of course, as NPCs, they probably wouldn't have been able to do such complex teamwork in the video game Yggdrasil.
Yes, because they couldn't think for themselves.
Some pretty advanced AI scripts that the video game simply didn't support.
Within the new world, they share the...
Ainz was a role-playing guild, and most of the NPCs were designed for role-playing reasons. That said, remember, Buku Buku Chugama played a tank, and was a raid group leader in the guild. As a matter of fact, she was one of the most skilled at what she did. So, she may have been considering all the factors that went into performing a successful raid when creating their builds, and used that knowledge to build Aura and Mare in a way that would make it as hard as possible to traverse the 6th floor, coming up with tactics and strategies that only a skilled raid leader would consider. So, it's possible that Aura and Mare could have just been more of a fun thought project than an actual defense force. Of course, the two floor guardians and their army of magical creatures would still work decently well as a defense force, even if they didn't behave as intelligently as a real player. Fortunately, now that Nazarick and its NPCs have been moved to the new world, they have the ability to easily employ such advanced tactics if Nazarick was ever attacked, though that will likely never happen. What's more important is that this free will has allowed Ainz to delegate other responsibilities to them. They don't just spend all of their free time rolling around in the 6th floor. The pair of them have been kept fairly busy doing all manner of things for Ainz, both on and off the screen. Mare's primary responsibilities so far have mainly required the use of his magic, while Aura has been responsible for managing and conquering the wilderness around Nazarick.
Which is class, I love
Going
that
into more
idea.
detail, if you'll recall back in Season 1, one of the first things that Ainz orders Mare to do is to disguise Nazarick via terrain manipulation magic.
Yep.
Namely,
Hide
by
it.
surrounding it with various hills in order to camouflage its profile on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
He had issued this order early on, back when he didn't really know how strong he or Nazarick was relative to everyone else in the New World. You see, after being told that the base was no longer in the swamp that it originally occupied in Yggdrasil, Ainz became concerned that Nazarick would be too easily discovered.
Yeah, I don't
So,
want people seeing that
after
straight away.
Mare
I need
was
to know where we're
finished,
at.
The
And
only
then
people
assess
who
the
could find
situation
Nazarick
and
would
go
be
from
those who
there.
stumble directly on top of it by accident, those who pass over it using flight magic, or those who could scan the area from above via divination magic. Now, Mare might have also been involved in the creation of the Green Hole, the settlement of lizardmen and plant creatures that's being used as a farm on the 6th floor. The name came from the fact that it was located in a vast clearing right in the middle of the forest. From above, it looked as if a hole swallowed up everything that was once there. Now, unless this clearing had already existed, it's likely some nature manipulation magic would have been used to clear out the trees in the area. In any case, we know he goes there every once in a while to cast some weather manipulation magic in order to produce rain to irrigate the
Makes
crops
sense.
and the plant creatures. This is because the 6th floor doesn't properly model any weather effects aside from the wind. Lastly, Ainz also entrusted Mare to guard him during the massacre of Cat's Plains in
True.
Season 3. I briefly mentioned this in Mare's video, but Ainz had equipped him with the world item Avarice and
The gloves,
Generosity,
yeah.
the one that absorbs the souls of slain creatures, then grants the user XP to power certain extremely
That was
powerful
so
spells
cool.
and abilities. Of course, if absorbing XP was the only reason why he brought Mare along, then he wouldn't need him. Ainz
No.
could just wear the gauntlets himself. So, why was Mare there? You see, Ainz came up with a trap, using himself as bait. His plan was to charge up the super tier spell that we saw, knowing that the cast time of it was very long. If another high-level player saw him casting this, they would immediately know what was happening, and it would be expected for them to launch a surprise teleportation ambush or sniper attack.
Like, stop
as
them before they
interrupting
can
him
put it
during
off.
the cast
Yeah,
time
pull it
would
off, yeah.
put his super tier spell on cooldown and negate its effect. Having stood there for several moments while charging this ability during a battle between one of the two largest nations, this was the final piece of evidence that he needed to confirm that there were no high-level players even remotely connected to any of the major nations present. But if there were, his plan
would
to
need a
use
backup.
himself as bait would
Yeah.
have potentially put him in danger. So it's reasonable to conclude that he trusted Mare to guard him from any surprise attacks during this preparation period.
Which
In fact,
implies
the
that Mare's
author
quite
has stated
tough.
that Mare is just below Shelter in combat power. That makes him one of the strongest in all of Nazarick.
That's a big deal.
And given that only a world item can protect the wielder from the effects of another world item, that made the gauntlet serve yet another purpose. All in all, they would protect Mare from other world items, absorb XP from any of the people killed, then potentially enable Mare to freely use some of his
Bam.
most powerful spells without regard for their XP costs. It's a piece
Incredible.
of equipment that's perfect for someone like Mare, who has very high tier area of effect spells. Other than that, Mare also has his Shadow of Yggdrasil staff to serve as his primary weapon. But we already talked about that before, so we'll just move on.
Gloss over that
On
one.
the other side of things, we have Aura, who's basically been working alongside Conquest to conquer everything around Nazarick for miles. The bulk of this took place after the events of Volume 8, aka the first few episodes of Season 3,
Oh, right,
which,
okay.
if you remember from our cut content video, the anime actually retconned some of the timeline of the source material,
Swapped it all
rearranging
over
certain
the
events
place.
to take place
Yeah, I
in
remember.
an order that wasn't consistent with the novels. This is important
So
to know
strange.
because the attack on Carne Village was supposed to take place early on, shortly after the events of the Lizardmen arc, the first major offensive outside Nazarick. It was back when Ainz was still very cautious of other high-level players, and paranoid about drawing attention to himself. Thus, the attack on Carne Village ended up taking place before Conquest and Aura had enough time to properly bring the areas surrounding Nazarick under control. In any case, the job was divvied up as follows. Conquest was to work alongside the Lizardmen and focus on demi-human tribes,
Okay.
essentially subjugating through conquest anything with something remotely close to a civilization. They were made to be placed under the banner of Ainz Urgon, much the same way that the Lizardmen were. Meanwhile, Aura was largely put in charge of scouting the terrain and handling all the wild, feral, or solitary beasts. I mean, she is a collector.
She
so
is.
much of
She
her time
loves
was spent
a
looking for
collection of
particularly
beasts
cool or
and
interesting
monsters and
ones.
things.
As a result, she didn't really pay any attention to any of the weaklings. And by weaklings, I mean pretty much anything that was weaker than Hamskay.
Right.
So basically anything under level 40, which, for perspective, is about as powerful and dangerous as Gazefstroma.
Okay.
Because of this, when Ainz questioned her about the Giant of the East and the Serpent
Such a
of the
shame they
West,
got rid of him.
she had no clue as to who they even were. This was a bit of a black mark on her reputation as a servant, as Ainz had trusted her to properly scout the terrain and all of its inhabitants, not just the ones that she thought were cool. In addition to scouting, she also oversaw the construction of a decoy Nazarick, with Ainz assigning her various undead laborers. In the long term, its only real purpose was to be used as a potential storehouse for materials, but in the short term, its purpose was multifold. They could trick enemies into thinking it was the real location of Nazarick, then lure them into a trap. Alternatively, if the real Nazarick was discovered and a major assault was launched, surviving members could regroup there in order to organize a counter-offensive. Like I said, Ainz was very concerned that other powerful level 100 players from Yggdrasil might have also been sent to the New World, and he wanted contingency plans in case they ended up being hostile towards Nazarick. But ultimately, the base ended up being a narrative red herring that was never used for either of these two purposes. Anyway, those were Aura's responsibilities. Now, the final aspect to complete her power profile are her weapons. Just like Mare, she has a main one and a world item.
The whip.
Based on the little knowledge that we have, her primary weapon is some kind of powerful bow. But she also has a secondary weapon called Queen, the whip that we saw her use back in season 1. Both are pretty typical for her ranger and beast tamer build. But obviously it's the world item that's the most interesting in her arsenal. It's called Depiction of Nature and Society. And just like how Mare was assigned Avarice and Generosity, Aura was likewise awarded a world item for protection.
Damn right.
Ainz really didn't want another shell tier case happening.
No.
Back to the item. It looks like a large scroll with the image of a landscape. And its ability allows it to trap a group of people, including the user, over an extremely large area inside a pocket dimension of the user's choosing.
Cool.
Escaping the location required those that were trapped to either defeat the user in battle or find one of these special escape points. And successfully doing either would instantly end the effect and automatically take the world item away from the original user and give it to the individual who had escaped. So, if you're planning on using this item, then you better know for sure that you can take on the people that you're trapping. Otherwise, sooner or later, someone is going to find an exit and you're going to lose your world item. The user can select from several potential locations, which are depicted as paintings on the scroll itself, and the number of escape points depended upon the terrain that the user chose. Generally, the more dangerous the terrain, the more escape hatches there would be for the opponent.
Makes sense.
A couple examples of terrains depicted on the scroll would be unbearably hot locations, ones filled with lava and all kinds of other heat-related hazards, or even a location that gave the user a free army at their disposal, though that army would be automatically scaled to be of smaller size and weaker strength than the opponent's force. This was a useful item in its own right, and of course an excellent choice for an NPC like Aura, for her specialization in group battles. Other than that, Aura has in her possession an old belonging of Buku Buku Chugama, a wristwatch rewarded to her for her loyal service to Nazarick. Ainz also gave her the Ring of Sustenance, which allows her to go without food, drink, or sleep.
Oh, that's
Still,
cool.
Though, Ainz liked to run Nazarick as ethically and responsibly as possible, giving his employees time for breaks. So the watch would help Aura keep track of time, for things like the shifts during her construction job, or during her excursions and scouting operations outside of Nazarick. Similarly, while many NPCs are undead or otherwise require no sustenance, Aura and Mare are one of the few that actually do. That's why the ring is pretty useful.
That's class.
It not only reduces the expenses associated with needing to feed Nazarick denizens, but it also helps Aura during her scouting operations. By contrast, Mare was given a ring of Ainz Orgon, which allows him to teleport freely between the various floors of Nazarick. Mare has this ring because he spends a lot more time in Nazarick, and Ainz wanted to make traversal more convenient for him.
Makes sense.
But Aura didn't get one because Ainz was paranoid that someone from outside Nazarick might try to obtain it and use it to infiltrate the base.
Because he's constantly traveling everywhere, that makes sense.
It's forbidden to take one outside of Nazarick. And since Aura spends so much time outside of it anyway, she wouldn't even have a use for the ring. But yeah, that's literally everything about Aura and Mare, which means we have one last floor grading to do in order to complete the entire collection. Cocytus if you watch the dub, and Cocytus if you watch the sub.
We haven't covered Cocytus!
Expect the first episode of that in a couple of weeks.
Sweet!
And I'll be finishing up my Shield Hero Cut content in between. So it'd
Cocytus
be really
is so
helpful if you
freaking
guys
cool!
to watch that next week as well.
Dude!
Now, before I go, I'd like to thank Cacao Games once again for sponsoring this video. Don't forget, you can use the link in the description and start a free 7-day trial with
Cocytus as well.
Sweet! Today. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. So, until next time, ciao!
Cool. Oh, amazing. Amazing. So we still got Conquest to cover. Ah! Ah! He gets so much crap. Everyone like seems to give him so much grief. But he's awesome. He loves to fight. He's ah. But there we have it. Aura and Mare explained. We've done all those. I still have one more Overlord video to check out that I've not done ages ago. I might just do that in a couple of days. Because I don't think you guys are digging the reactions to the Shield Hero Cut content videos anymore. So I might do that instead. And let's see where we are from there. Throw a Shield Hero Cut content video in to see... But I feel like you guys don't care for them anymore, so I'm going for the last one anyway. But thank you guys very much for watching. What did you guys think of that? What did you guys think of this? Click the like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys. Love you guys. Next time. Bye.